We believe you've had your registration sorted out and you've done a bit of networking for your benefits. So we'll go straight into our expectations for today. The first thing I would call on our president to come and give her welcome and address. That will be followed closely with the sponsors' remarks as well. And then we will go into a segmented section. The first section will incorporate technical discussions where we would try to understand some insights about Ben Osuno's time. We will also have a second presentation, a technical presentation. Apologies, I don't have the full title on display, so I can't read it. But that will be taken by Dr. Omatsola. And then we will go into the second phase, which will then delve into the celebration proper. We will see some documentaries and other stuff that we've planned. So I'll leave us all to wait for that moment, and then we will have photographs, launch, and then we will close out. So at this point, I'd like to call President of FNAPE, Mrs. Olajumoke Cecilia, to come and give us her opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Distinguished BOT members, AC members present here, fellows of FNAPE, executive members of FNAPE, respected elders, guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor and gratitude to God that I welcome you to today's gathering, where we are celebrating an icon and one of the pioneers of Nigeria's petroleum and geoscience community, in person of Ogbueshi Ben Anene Osuno. At 90, Ogbueshi Osuno represents a lifetime of outstanding service, leadership, and integrity. From his pioneering days in Shell BP to his distinguished roles in NNPC, petroleum regulation, and as Nigeria's governor to OPEC, his contribution, you will all agree with me, have helped shape the foundation and growth of our nation's oil and gas industry. Today, we are not merely celebrating the number of years he has lived. We are celebrating the depth and enduring influence of his legacy, a legacy that continues to inspire professionalism and excellence across generations of petroleum professionals. So on behalf of Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, it is my privilege to welcome you all as we honor Ogbueshi Ben Osuno at 90. I can assure everyone present that you will leave here today with a deeper understanding of who the celebrant truly is, the remarkable journey he has undertaken, the immense contributions he has made as an icon of the oil and gas industry. To achieve this, we have in here distinguished individuals who know him closely and who will share insights, reflections, and lectures that illuminate his extraordinary life and career. Once again, distinguished guests, thank you for being part of this historic celebration. May this gathering serve not only as a tribute to Ogbueshi Osuno, but also an inspiration to all of us to uphold the values of excellence, service, and integrity. And that is what Ogbueshi Osuno stands for. Thank you once again for coming. And I also want to thank Aradel, because it wouldn't have been possible to have this session today, this celebration, if not for Aradel, who graciously agreed to sponsor this event. Please, can we celebrate Aradel? So before we go into the celebration, it will be good to call our sponsors to make their remarks before we start. So I call on Mr. Adegbite Falade, the MD CEO of Aradel, to give the sponsors remark. Thank you very much. The last technical meeting last year, you sponsored. This celebration today, you are sponsoring. Can we celebrate? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone in the room. Distinguished Madam President, Jumoke Ajayi, the fellows of FNAPE, the executive committee members, and the entire FNAPE community, but very especially a celebrant of today, Ogbueshi Ben Osuno. Good morning. I would like to thank FNAPE for the privilege accorded Aradel Holdings to sponsor this special technical session, which also doubles to celebrate the 90th birthday of a revered icon and a living legend of our industry in the person of Ogbueshi Ben Osuno, FNAPE. As a leading indigenous energy independent that is listed on the Nigerian exchange, Aradel Holdings PLC has been shaped by visionary leadership, technical excellence, and an unwavering belief in the capacity of indigenous companies to drive sustainable value for the benefit of every Nigerian. These principles, championed by our founding fathers, have been consistently strengthened by the leaders who have guided our organization through its evolution over the past 3 decades. Ogbueshi Ben Osuno stands as one of those leaders whose illustrious career continues to echo in every annal of the industry. A physics graduate of the University College Ibadan, he held senior leadership roles including Head of Exploration and Production at the Nigerian National Oil Company, Director of Petroleum Resources, Director of Planning, Research and Statistics in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and Special Advisor to the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, amongst other roles. Particularly for us in Aradel, Ogbueshi Osuno is one of our past chairmen of the board of Aradel Holdings PLC, a role he held from the 28th of August 2002 to 31st of May 2012. His decade-long tenure was a transformative period in our corporate history. Under his astute leadership as the chairman of the board, the company experienced significant expansion and strategic consolidation, evolving into a fully integrated energy company. His stewardship laid the foundation for the diversified portfolio we maintain today and enabled the bold strategic strides that Aradel continues to make within Nigeria's energy sector. Ogbueshi Osuno's contributions have not only shaped organizations, including Aradel, he has inspired generations of professionals who continue to uphold the highest standards of excellence. At this epochal time in our industry, the values embodied by Ogbueshi Osuno, the values of integrity, the values of discipline, and long-term strategic thinking remain profoundly relevant. I wish everyone here an illuminating experience as we receive the insights by industry veterans, many of them here, but also including Professor SJS Cookey, OFR KSC, who will be doing justice to the professional life of our own Ogbueshi Osuno, and Dr. Moses Omatsola, FNAPE, who will be taking us on the journey to review oil and gas policies from history to date. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to say a hearty 90th birthday to Ogbueshi Osuno. In the context of life expectancy in Nigeria, he has successfully used 2 lives. Congratulations, sir. And let me wish every one of us a rewarding and insightful session today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd like to call our VP to come on stage and recognize our dignitaries that are present here with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Once again, I'll say good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming here today to honor one of our own, a distinguished icon, as we've mentioned all day long. And so it's a pleasure for all of us to gather and celebrate this great man. And as in our tradition, it's my pleasure to specially recognize some of our elders and fellows that are here with us today in the room. First, of course, we would want to respectfully welcome our past president in the person of Pastor Daniel Ndefo FNAPE, please. Also, we'll welcome Mr. Funshaw Odedere, I think I pronounced that well, FNAPE. You are welcome, sir. And of course, she's been welcomed already. Our current president, Madam Olajumoke Ajayi FNAPE. You are the hosts already, so you're welcome. Also want to welcome one of our veterans and our elder here in the person of Dr. Ebi Omashola FNAPE. You are welcome, sir. I also want to welcome Dr. Lai Fatona FNAPE. You are welcome, sir. Welcome. And I also want to welcome Mr. Abiodun Bajewu. I hope I pronounced that well. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it well. Welcome, sir. Yes, and one of our past presidents in the person of Mr. Babajide Agbabiaka FNAPE. You are very welcome, sir. And our former chairman of the BOT, whom I was very privileged to serve with as the secretary of the BOT, the person of Chief Chambers Oyibo. You're very welcome, sir. And also it's a pleasure to also welcome the person of our first female president of NAPE, Mrs. Adedoja Ojelabi. Welcome. And also want to welcome our fellow, Mr. Olusheye Eko. You are welcome, sir. And also Mr. Kazim Koleosho. You are very welcome, sir, FNAPE. I also want to welcome our past president, one of our past presidents here, in the person of Mr. Ajibola Oyebamiji FNAPE. You are welcome, sir. I've also been informed that we have some of our senior members and fellows online, so I'll just also recognize them here. In the person of our current AC chairman, Dr. Emmanuel Enu FNAPE. You are welcome, sir, online. Also, we have online Dr. Abimbola Durogbiton FNAPE. We also acknowledge your presence. And one of our past presidents, Mr. Alex Tarka, FNAPE, is online. Welcome, sir. Yes, and of course, we can't forget the presence online of NAPE's 001, the person of Mr. Akemeno Oteri. Welcome, sir. And our immediate past president is also online, Mr. John Bosco Uche, FNAPE. You are welcome. Also online is Dr. Musto Onoha, FNAPE. Kindly put our hands together for him. And finally, for now, we also want to acknowledge the presence online of Dr. Muiwa Olawoki, FNAPE. Please put our hands together. So we welcome everyone here, and for all those who have also taken time to honor our great icon, you're also welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Moving on very quickly because of time, we are going now to the next phase, which is our technical session. I would like to call on our President, Mrs. Hajayi FNAPE, to come on stage and introduce our moderator for the day. Thank you.
Are we still? Yes. Good morning once again. Our moderator for today is Mr. Babajide Agbabiaka, FNAPE, past president of FNAPE. I want you to specially thank him because it was only yesterday night I called him and requested that he takes up this responsibility. And he said, anything for you, my president. Thank you very much, sir. So I'll just read this short profile. Babajide Agbabiaka started his career in the North Sea with Phillips Petroleum in 1975, following graduation from the University of Ibadan in 1974 as a geologist. His 31-year service in industry culminated in retirement as Executive Director of Subsurface Technical Operations with ExxonMobil in October 2006. At ExxonMobil, he was described as big oil finder after he led the discovery of some of the biggest stratigraphic traps in the Niger Delta. His development of many young geoscientists earned him Best Manager Award in mid-90s. Jide joined NAPE in 1976. He is a past president, past vice president, past secretary and volunteer champion of the NAPE Foundation since 1998. A certified geoscientist of COMEG, member of NMGS, is currently a freelance consultant and managing director of Buron Resources Limited, a project development business since 2007. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Babajide Agbabiaka, who will moderate the program of today. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir.
the president of FNAPE, Mrs. Olajumoke Ajayi, the vice president of FNAPE, all the distinguished members of the FNAPE executive, I especially want to greet our special guest of honor today, Ogbueshi Ben Osuno, whom we are honoring on the occasion of his 90th birthday celebration. Very ably supported by his beautiful wife. Our elders in session today, without going through all the names that have already been recognized, members of FNAPE, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the president sent a little too much by advertising that she called me up last night to saddle me with this responsibility, to which I laughed initially. And I think she wondered why I was laughing. And she said it's a Yoruba adage, but she said it in English, that I should not say that she's sending our older brother on an errand. So I said, well, I can't be your older brother when you are my president. And my president sends me on an errand. I'm obliged. And so I took it up. And so here we all are today. That's the short, long and short of it. But I am thrilled. I'm honored. I'm delighted to be anchoring today's session. In as much as we are celebrating our own Ogbueshi Ben Osuno. It's been a long time in this industry. For those of us who, well, without being sort of aggrandizing, have crossed this 70s line, and then more have crossed 80, and here today we are with Ogbueshi Ben at 90. I'm not going to go through too much preamble because my task is very simple. Bring on the speakers, the first session, the second session, go through a moderation of questions and answers and other comments that others might have in the house. And then we'll wrap up the celebrations with the policy secretary and the president directing the rest of the affairs. Our first presentation is pretty much on what I would describe as almost the industry history of Ogbueshi Ben, and also the history, more or less, of petroleum regulation in Nigeria. For those who don't know, listen very attentively when the speaker begins his talk. This presentation is prepared by Professor SJS Cookey, who unfortunately is unable to be with us in person. and so has delegated to one of us, who's also a very senior member and leader in FNAPE. I see my president wagging his head, and I know why she's wagging her head. We were going to reverse the order of presentation initially. But, you know, when somebody who received his PhD before you yourself entered the university pushes back on what you think is better for your own benefit, I leave the rest for you to conclude. I will say no further than that. When I go ahead later on to introduce and read the profile of Dr. Moses Ebitsuwa Omatsola, you will understand what I'm talking about. So let me go on. Professor Cookey is unable to be with us in person, and he has delegated his paper to be presented by another senior leader in the association, whom I will announce in a moment. But Professor Cookey had his education through the University College Ibadan, and his degree is Bachelor of Arts, London. You know, University of Ibadan started as a university college of the University of London. So when he received his bachelor's degree and his PhD in the London School of Economics and Political Science, he went on to academically and rose to the level of professorship at Rutgers University in the United States of America. Suffice to say that renowned economist and political scientist, Professor Cookey was appointed the Vice Chancellor of University of Port Harcourt in 1982. And he was in that position for 5 years. He's also notably recognized as was Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Obafemi Awolowo University at Ile-Ife. Each position he held for another 5 years between 2005 and 2007. He's recognized for being one of the early board members of the originally Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC, now Aradel, who are today's sponsors. You look at the coincidence there. Additionally, he's chairman of Global Pipelines and Process Services Limited. Professor Cookey has been honored with the Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and is a Knight of St. Christopher of the Church of Nigerian Anglican Communion. He has an honorary Doctor of Science from the University of Port Harcourt and an honorary Doctor of Letters of the Anambra State University. I've tried to abridge his profile because I didn't want to go on and on. And so you'll forgive the seemingly haphazard recitation of his profile. So Professor Cookey, I'm sure, will be watching online. If he's not already online, he'll be joining us as we go along to provide us moral support. But I have the pleasure in inviting one and only Dr. Olaiwola Francis Fatono, whom you all know, needs no introduction. Is FNAPE, also has an honorary Doctor of Science of the University of, is it Ado-Ekiti or somewhere? I'm trying to recall. My memory fails me at this point in time. As a former president of NAPE, the chairman of Renaissance Energy Africa Energy Limited. And I also can go on and on and on. And but we don't want to keep you all in suspense. What we came here to do is to listen to the juice put together by Professor Cookey. So I'll respectfully invite Dr. Olaiwola Fatono onto the podium.
Good morning, Madam President of NAPE, Ogbueshi. I'm the only one who is allowed to call Ogbueshi the full title of whatever. I will say Ogbueshi Ben Anene Osuno, FNAPE. And of course, when you see Ogbueshi these days, it stands to reason beside a very, very strong man, there's even a much stronger woman or a lady. Madam, this is Corley. And I had to learn how to call his name from Dr. Lalude Osuno. Thank you very much for joining us today. So I'm a very lucky person because I always get the easy chores of life. So when I was called that I was going to read Professor Cookey's paper, I started trembling because the citation of Professor Cookey does not actually do justice to who he is. Many of you don't know, but you discover as I make this presentation on his behalf. By the way, he's very healthy. He's in Port Harcourt, but Professor Cookey is almost as aged as Mr. Osuno. They were actually classmates. So he rarely travels these days, again, because of the perils of traveling in Nigeria. But he's very much with us on this occasion. And he has asked me to deliver his paper verbatim. And so you are going to indulge me because it's 5 pages long. And I'm going to read this very exciting expose of what he had written. So here he goes. Ben Anene Osuno, an exploration of his times. I wish to congratulate the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, NAPE, on its decision to honor Ben Osuno, a distinguished pioneer of the oil industry in Nigeria. Ben and I became acquainted as undergraduates at the University College Ibadan in 1958. He was reading physics, and those of us in the Faculty of Arts felt a certain sympathy for our friends in the Faculty of Science. We thought then that they will probably end up as science teachers in some secondary school, while we imagined that we had the option of employment as administrators in the public service. Ben, as we all know him then, went on to become a guru in the oil industry. And I, a teacher of some sort, So much for our knowledge of the world at that time. As undergraduates, a few of us, including Ben, now listen to this, formed an exclusive club known as the Inner Circle. Madam, girl had always been a star. I know that Inner Circle society still exists today at the University of Ibadan. And there we enjoyed one another's company. After graduation, we lost contact for many years until 2005, when I walked into the boardroom of a relatively little known company called Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC, now Aradel Group. Ben was the board chairman, and seated beside him was Lai Fatono, the managing director. The three of us interacted wonderfully well for a period of about 8 years before Ben retired and nominated me as his successor. I declined. His shoes were too big for me to wear. What I've decided to do as a professional storyteller is to use this long life of our distinguished honoree, spanning the period from 1936 to the present, as a framework for discussing some aspects of our country's present plight. Ben Osuno's life covers a unique period. He witnessed British colonial rule in Nigeria, as well as the transition through self-government, independence, military rule, to the return of civilian governance. This provides us an opportunity to frame the present against the background of the past. Why do we need to do this? It is largely because it affords a perspective to understand where we are and how we got here. That essentially is the task of the historian that I am, as well as, I dare say, you, all explorationists, who did geological formations, although with a definite time frame. For many years in this country, history was quite incredibly not taught in schools as a matter of government policy. Fortunately, that policy has been reversed. As it is often said, if you do not know where you are coming from, you may not recognize when you return to your starting point. Let me therefore begin by recalling the circumstances under which the country we inhabit today came into being. The boundaries of Nigeria were drawn by Britain, France, and Germany in Berlin during the winter of 1884 to 1885. As one British colonial writer, Marguerite Perham, once observed, the natives suddenly found themselves enclosed within an iron grid and thus became a nation in the making. By the time Ben Osuno was born, British administration in this territory had become well established. It is my contention that the manner in which that administration was organized and the assumptions that underpinned it have profoundly shaped our present situation. In order to understand Nigeria today, we must first examine how the British chose to govern their portion, which they seized and occupied. As part of a strategy for controlling the natives, the British established a hierarchy of administrative areas where a form of apartheid was practiced. At one corner of the settlement, a section dubbed European quarters was marked out and developed with opulence. This was surrounded by lush gardens, accommodation, hospitals, and in addition, a church exclusively designed for the use of white persons. This was provided. As part of the policy to differentiate between the whites and the blacks, the British employee received emoluments about 1,000% higher than the African equivalent. A distance away from this area was a very modest group of barrack-like houses reserved as African quarters. Beside the latter, land was allocated for other Africans attracted to the emergent urban center. Ben will recall that after independence, the attainment of the European quarters were named government residential areas, and privileged Nigerian employees replaced the departed Europeans. In addition, the Nigerian legislators were provided with similar active facilities. It is significant to note that after independence, the income of the Nigerian senior civil servants remained the same as their departed British counterparts. Thus, maintaining disparity between the two segments of administration. It is pertinent to note that in India, in contrast, such colonial privileges and disparities in income were abolished after independence, and a more egalitarian society was fostered. Before leaving this policy of segregation, let me highlight one aspect of the consequence, which, as far as I know, has not received much attention. The African officials of the colonial era in their own quarters hardly had any interaction with the natives. They became non-indigens, with consequences that we are more familiar with. Finally, another phenomenon that emerged within the African areas was a different form of segregation. People from the ethnic groups tended to cluster together for social and commercial interaction. This gave rise to what became known as Sabongari, or strangers' quarters, where migrant populations lived separately from indigenous communities. Thus, although they were all Africans or Nigerians, they did not enjoy the same social interaction. Relationships were largely limited to the commercial transactions necessary for daily living. This pattern was reinforced by differences in religion, practice, with some worshiping in churches and the others in mosques. A further consequence was that African civil servants, particularly those in the junior service, did not relate closely with their African neighbors. What ultimately emerged from this colonial arrangement was that people, whether white or black, did not form a community of shared interests. Rather, they existed as segments brought together primarily for the maintenance of law and order, so that colonial exploitation could proceed peacefully and without interruption. The result of this process is not difficult to discern. If one examines present-day urban centers in Nigeria, the vestiges of this colonial policy and its enduring effects remain clearly visible. Let us now return to the colonial economy. The primary reason for British possession of Nigeria was the exploitation of economic resources required by industries in the homeland. This interest predated formal colonial rule, beginning with the transatlantic slave trade, during which people were taken from the coast of what is now Nigeria to work in cotton, tobacco, and sugar plantations in the Americas. Under colonial rule, Britain focused attention on what was deemed as legitimate trade. Tropical forest resources were exploited to feed an industrializing Europe. Palm oil, palm kernel, cocoa, cotton, groundnuts, raw materials became central to the colonial economy. Territories such as Nigeria were therefore acquired in ways designed to maximize their economic potential in the service of metropolitan interests. In Ben's community, economic activities focused almost exclusively on the production of raw materials for export. food production and local processing or manufacturing were of secondary importance. Later, crude oil was discovered. However, by the time petroleum assumed major economic significance, colonial rule had come to an end. Ben and his colleagues took on a new lease of life. Unfortunately, once crude oil became dominant in Nigeria's economy, it reinforced the same pattern of development. Minimal effort was made to encourage local refining capability or promote manufacturing. Nigeria's colonial dependence on the export of unprocessed or minimally processed resources has therefore remained largely unchanged. But let us return to the colonial experience. As administration and economic activity expanded, the colonial government found it necessary to employ increasing numbers of local personnel. Consequently, educational institutions were established. First, primary schools, followed later by secondary institutions. Ben will be one of the beneficiaries as a student of government college, here. And this was the foundation was laid for his advancement. Christian missionaries, on their part, were encouraged to establish educational institutions to increase the pool of Western educated Nigerians. The point to note here is that while educational institutions proliferated in the southern parts of Nigeria, through missionary and even indigenous local initiatives, nothing comparable occurred in the north or in the northern parts of Nigeria, especially in the far north. When higher educational institutions were eventually established, such as Yaba Higher College and University College Ibadan, only one segment of the country, the South, could readily benefit. It will be interesting to know from Ben how many students from northern Nigeria were in his Faculty of Science. The consequences of this imbalance in educational entertainment became evident when it was necessary to fill the jobs vacated by the departing British officials after independence. However, we must not lose fact of one significant legacy of British colonial rule. It provided a common language that enabled diverse ethnic groups to communicate across much wider area than had previously been possible and to engage with the wider world. I have often wondered how long Nigeria might have endured or remained under British rule had the Second World War not broken out. That war, which lasted from 1939 to 1945, transformed the global order in ways that few could have. Britain survived the war largely through the support of the United States and the contributions of her colonies, such as Nigeria. Colonial subjects who fought alongside Europeans returned home with new perspectives and heightened expectations of improved lifestyles. At the same time, the ideology of communism sponsored by the USSR, which opposed the colonialism, gained increasing appeal among the colonized peoples. As a result, Britain and other European colonial powers came under intense pressure from the United States and within the colonies to end colonialism. India, which Britain had colonized for over 200 years, gained independence in 1947 and became a powerful catalyst for colonized peoples worldwide. British officials who had expected to administer African colonies for many decades suddenly found themselves preparing to depart. They were embittered and their reaction was vengeful against the nationalists. Their reaction laid the foundation for post-independence instability in various parts of Africa. How did this reaction play out in Nigeria? As the Second World War was about to commence, the British colonial administration undertook a major administrative reorganization of the colony. The country was divided into 3 large administrative units: the northern, the western, and eastern group of provinces. In 1946, by the Richards Constitution, these provinces were converted to regions with individual headquarters located in Kaduna, Ibadan, and Enugu respectively. The capital of the country still remained in Lagos, which was excluded from being part of Western region. This decision introduced the concept of regionalism and federalism into Nigeria's political structure. It will be interesting to ascertain the rationale for this action. Why was it necessary to make the northern region almost equal in size to the western and eastern regions combined? Looking at the map of Nigeria, this was a division based on natural boundaries, such as rivers Niger and Benue, that could have produced a balanced arrangement. That obvious option was ignored. In doing so, the British laid the foundation for one of the most persistent structural problems Nigeria later to confront. At this time, Nigerians themselves appeared largely unconcerned about the implications of this arrangement. The pressure of self-government dominated political discussion, and little attention was paid to the long-term consequences of the political structure being imposed. The result was that Nigeria emerged an independence as an asymmetric federation. This imbalance would have far-reaching consequences for the peace, political stability, and ordered development of this country. It should be pointed out here that the problem was compounded by the manipulation of the plebiscite conducted by the British, which resulted in northern Cameroon being absorbed into the northern region. This further enhanced the demographic and geographical size of the then northern region. There's no evidence that northern Nigerians campaigned for the above structural arrangements. The obvious conclusion is that this was a British colonial plot to avenge themselves of the agitation for their departure orchestrated by Southern nationalists. The agitation, which was organized first in Lagos by the Nigerian Youth Movement, was taken up on a wide scale by the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroon, NCNC, as well as the Action Group, AG. There is evidence that the British administrative officers serving in the northern region felt threatened by these parties. Accordingly, according to Alan Feinstein in his Aminu Kano biography, these British officials encouraged the formation of a party known as Northern People's Congress to counter the agitations or agitators in the South. The name of this party, which is obvious sectional coloration, would not change until its demise. Northern leaders at the time, in my opinion, were among the most realistic in not agitating for self-rule. They recognized that they could simply replace the British given the lack of manpower. They could not simply replace the British given the lack of manpower, administrative experience required to govern a modern state. Sir Ahmadu Bello, leader of the NPC, openly stated that the North was not ready for independence and did not wish the British to depart. This posture would obviously endear the Northern leadership to British administrators, and that bond was to have a profound impact on Nigeria's subsequent political evolution. When independence approached, British officials ensured that power in the emergent nation was placed in the hands of those they regarded as friends. This relationship is captured succinctly in the autobiography of the last governor of Northern Nigeria, Sir Brian Sherwood Smith, aptly titled, "But Always as Friends." As Ben was leaving the University of Nigeria was also emerging as an independent country. As I have already stated, the federation was asymmetric, and this imbalance had and will continue to have far-reaching consequences. It lies at the root of all Nigeria's political, economic, and social life, as we now see. First, when elections were conducted to usher in an independent Nigeria, the departing British ensured that the Nigerian People's Congress emerged victorious and assumed control of the federation. From then onwards, the struggle over which region will control the central government began, a struggle that has continued in various forms to the present-day Nigeria. What is important here is not merely the political maneuvering that accompanied independence, but the deeper continuity in attitudes and behavior. Those who assumed leadership in the new Nigerian state largely behaved in the same manner as the British. The top echelons of government, both federal and regional, saw themselves as heirs inheriting the assumptions, privileges, and authority of their colonial predecessors. They believed they know what was best for the people and felt entitled to the same adulation and privileges previously enjoyed by the British. In effect, little changed in rulership, except the color of the office holders. I'm inclined to think that this attitude first imbibed at what was called the senior civil service, i.e., those who replaced the British, was subsequently transferred to political office holders and legislators. It has continued to operate, not necessarily in the interest of the masses, but as a demonstration of power and entitlement as displayed by the colonialists. The period between the height of agitation for independence and its eventual grant in 1960 was simply too short for those who replaced the British to fully understand the tenets of modern governance as practiced in Britain and in the wider Western world. Institutions such as the legislature and the civil service, which had evolved over centuries, would not be mastered overnight. Socially, although we are now called Nigerians, allegiance to tribe, religion remained strong. The absence of a single nationalist movement, such as existed in India, limited the emergence of a genuine sense of nationhood. Political competition was largely devoid of ideology and driven instead by primordial considerations. Consequently, the search for nationhood has remained a work in progress. I had earlier alluded to the assumption by political leaders that because they brought independence into being, they were entitled to administer the leadership of the country. What emerged from this assumption was the gradual evolution of a culture of entitlement. This way of thinking soon permeated the entire structure of governance in Nigeria. It spread from the highest levels of authority to the lowest, and it has persisted to this day. Because new leaders believed they were replacing the British colonial masters, they also assumed that they were entitled to the same prestige, the same privileges, and the same dominance that the British had enjoyed. I have already mentioned how the culture of entitlement started. This will soon spill over to corrupt practices. An assumption emerged that leadership required an opulent lifestyle and that those in authority were justified in appropriating national resources to sustain that lifestyle. Corruption, therefore, seems to have ceased to be regarded as an aberration or criminal act. it seems to have become normalized and accepted as part of governance. Let me now return to the economy. I have often wondered whether the mentality of reliance on the export of raw materials, which characterized the colonial era, was ever truly abandoned in Nigeria. When oil was discovered, the focus was on export for processing abroad, and it is significant that efforts to refine crude oil locally were largely unsuccessful. Until recently, as an aside, and to the highlight the mentality mentioned earlier, Ben would recall the laudable initiative of Lai Fatun and his team, who convinced the NDEP board to authorize the establishment of a modular refinery in Ogbueshi. That project had to overcome the reluctance of the regulatory agency, and when it was completed, the license specifically restricted the company from putting the product into the market. I hope this exploration of the period in which our nation has formed has not left us with the impression of a bleak future. That is far from the intention of this exercise. Its purpose is not to promote pessimism or cynicism, but to expose the faulty lines in our national existence. The objective is to understand how we arrived at the present challenging destination and to take appropriate remedial actions. I would like the following to be considered at the present time. First, we must stop deluding ourselves to believe that Nigeria is already a nation. It is not. Nigeria remains a nation in the making. Consequently, those at the helm of our affairs must recognize that conscious and deliberate efforts are required to bring about the birth of a viable, stable, and sustainable nation. Secondly, the mentality of privilege and entitlement to the resources of this country by those in authority to the detriment of the less privileged must be confronted and dismantled. This mentality has contributed directly to corruption and to the mindless appropriation of our national resources for personal enjoyment. Thirdly, the federal bureaucracy, which seeks to ensure that its tentacles extend into the remotest parts of the country, must be curtailed, and local people should be encouraged to manage local affairs. Excessive centralization has undermined local initiative and diverted attention from a proper understanding of the diverse development needs of the country. In this connection, there's need to borrow a leaf from the presidential system as practiced in the United States, from where we copied it. I would like to end by returning to the reason why we are here. The life of Ben Osuno reminds us that history is not an abstraction. It is lived. It is witnessed and carried forward by individuals across generations. His 90 years span many of the transformations highlighted in this lecture. Our responsibility is not merely to commemorate such lives, but to learn from the history they present, the history they embody, and to ensure that the lessons of the past inform the choices that we make. Ladies and gentlemen of FNAPE, I'm wondering what my friend Ben, now in the evening of his days, thinks of all the above. Thank you. No use.
Well, I tell you, that was a remarkable recitation of the evolution of the country, Nigeria, if you ask me. I said, for those who didn't know, you should listen attentively to the story of Nigeria, which is pretty much what Professor Cookey has shared with us this morning. Dr. Fatton has done justice to it as written. So I humbly requested him to just sit with me here and keep me company until the questions and comments start to fly, so we can all participate fully. Please give him another round of applause for. I'm not in the habit of recapping and going over what the speaker has delivered. For me, it's an overkill. It's also time not well spent. When it gets to Q&A session time, we can do some of that. Therefore, I'm just going to go straight out and invite our next speaker to the podium. The next talk is on a narrower focus on the history of Nigeria with special relevance to the petroleum industry and the regulatory and the growth of the regulation of the industry, to be delivered by our one and only Dr. Moses Ebitsuwa Omatsola. The people are getting him ready. Dr. Omatsola, we all know as a veteran of geology, the oil and gas industry business. He graduated in 1966 from the University of Ibadan and had an MSc from Stockholm University and PhD Uppsala in 1970. When I said someone who got his PhD before I got into university, now you understand who I was talking about. I started university in 1971 and he had his PhD in 1970. So who am I to raise my voice and try to gainsay what he what he thinks is right? Dr. Omatsola started his career in Shell Petroleum Development Company. There he helped to reshape petroleum geology and exploration across the whole of West Africa. And that's known to everybody. It's not just a story, it's reality. And he became the first African to globally hail Shell's geological laboratory and emerged as a Nigerian leader in the field that is long dominated by expatriates. After his stay at Shell in various capacities in various parts of the world, he became the MD of Cornell Producing Limited in 1991. And under his stewardship, that company grew into Nigeria's premier indigenous E&P company at that time, achieving and exceeding 40 to 45,000 barrels a day production. At that time, it was a feat unparalleled by any other indigenous Nigerian company. It solidified Corner's market position and proved that Nigerian-owned firms could compete at the highest levels of the petroleum industry. So his Pathfinder role was celebrated in 2016 with the Pathfinder Award from the Nigeria Energy Chronicles. That is a first. Dr. Omatsola, in 1982, the Obafemi Awolowo University honored him, his academic and professional achievements at its 40th anniversary. And in 2018, his alma mater, the University of Ibadan, conferred upon him a Lifetime Achievement Award during its 70th anniversary. In 2022, the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Exploration, FNAPE, named him as the first recipient of the Aret Adams Distinguished Award, which is the highest award of the association. Last year, at the 50th anniversary, he received the Lifetime Achievement in Geoscience and Transformational Leadership Award, underscoring his role as one of the founding fathers of the Nigerian petroleum geology. I've skipped a lot of highlights. Most of us know them. And I will, without further ado, respectfully invite Dr. Omatsola to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a difficult time when you don't have to talk about geology, geoscience, and all the rest of it. Puts you in an environment where you are not comfortable. And it becomes even less comfortable when the celebrant of today's occasion, which is, I call him my Oga, always my Oga, until my last days, is the one who picked the topic and called you out to come and present, to come and say what you know about the title. So I took my time and I did ask the celebrant to please guide me. And today's speech is a combination of his documents, some of my research, and the research of one or two others that will mention at the end of this paper. So let me start by saying all protocols observed. First, I must say big congratulations to Pa Ogbueshi Ben Osuno, who was my boss in the early days of the oil and gas industry in what used to be Shell BP and later Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria. Apart from being the founding head of the regulatory branch of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, Pa Ogbueshi Ben Osuno was one of the first set of technocrats that left the private sector to the public sector in a bid to establish a thriving oil and gas industry in line with the policy of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, of which Nigeria became a member in 1971, which is the year I joined Shell. This policy evaluation paper is not meant to touch every policy relating to the oil and gas industry, but it seeks to touch on those key policies that shape the industry to date. In this regard, credit must go to the founding fathers of the industry, most of whom had relatively limited expertise in oil and gas exploration and production. Nonetheless, they were able to establish the Petroleum Profit Tax Act, PPTA of 1959. I think if the last presentation can be referred to, Nigeria became independent 1960. But this particular act was in place before Nigeria became independent. This history that you just heard will be related to some of the issues that I'm going to raise in this paper. Now, the Petroleum Act. Control of industry operations was predicated on the Petroleum Act of 1969, which was established under the then Ministry of Mines and Power. Again, after what you've heard, you see the mix and the lack of decision by Nigeria being played by foreign influences. Will show you how things evolved in time and the impact that Ogbueshi made. The law recognized several categories of licenses and players in the upstream sector, not mining that Shell had a significant part of the entire country. Let me repeat again, that Shell had a significant part of the entire country. At that time, Shell owned all the PEL of the entire 5 basins of Nigeria. The Anambra Basin, Sokoto Basin, the Lemede Basin, the Borno Basin, the Benue Basin, Niger Delta, and the Dahomey Basin. All 5 or 6 were already owned at that time by Shell BP. This is very significant. Including, and then the country, before the international oil companies, including Gulf Oil, now Chevron, Agip, ENI, and Mobil Producing entered the scene. Chevron and Mobil essentially focused on offshore activities, with Chevron pitching its tent on the West, 2 American companies coming to Nigeria afresh, and Mobil settled for the eastern part of the Niger Delta. You see the focus of companies when they come. Shell had everywhere, but these 2 Americans, when they showed up, they selected specific areas of Delta to operate. Now, let us look at Nigeria's entry into OPEC and the birth of NNPC. In July 1971, Nigeria joined OPEC as its 11th member, and this singular event marked a turning point in the history and development of the oil and gas industry. OPEC was founded on the 10th of September 1960 in Baghdad, Iraq, by 5 oil-producing countries: Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. I made that pause for us to understand the significance of this history. The last 5th country is Venezuela, who has recently been invaded by somebody else. Based on the outlined objectives of OPEC and a mandate from the organization, Nigeria established the Nigerian National Oil Corporation in 1971, essentially focusing on the upstream sector of the industry. Though the intention of OPEC was for all member countries to take over the ownership of their resources, Nigeria hitherto had commenced negotiation with Agip and later ELF, Italy, and France, with Shell, which then was the Netherlands, meaning Europe, took over. Now you can see how it relates to the previous speech. Though the intention of OPEC was for the all member, yes, Nigeria hitherto has commenced negotiation with Agip and ELF for its stake in their operations in the country. That structure gave birth to the joint venture arrangement in the upstream sector of the industry and has continued up to date, but with different dimensions and structures. Incidentally, the joint venture agreements, JVAs, between the National Oil Corporation and the IOCs were not executed until 1991. Nigeria joined OPEC in 1971, yet the JVs were not signed until 1991, 20 years. I don't know if the history is settling in our minds. In 1975, the Department of Petroleum Resources, which used to operate as part of the Ministry of Mines and Power, was upgraded into the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. This paved the way for the country to take full authority over regulatory guidance and control of the industry. Now, on the 1st of April 1977, the NNPC was established under Decree 33 from the merger of the NNOC, Nigerian National Oil Corporation, and the then Ministry of Petroleum Resources. With the merger of the regulatory and operational sectors of the industry into one body, the Department of Petroleum Resources became a division of NNPC, with Pa, Ogbueshi, Ben, Osuno as the head. The impact of this merger of conflicting roles within the same body became controversial over time, as the NNPC was viewed more as a regulator than an operator, a situation that persisted and sometimes was actualized until recently, when the PIA was established into an act. See how long? 1971 to 2021. Nothing happened. NNPC was the regulator as well as the operator. Now, some of us who had joint ventures with them will understand the power NNPC had. For example, paragraph 20 of the NNPC Act of 1977 exempts the corporation, let's listen carefully, from certain parts of the Petroleum Act relating to relinquishment of interest in assets, tenure of licenses, including all exploration licenses and all prospecting licenses, as well as the pronunciation by the Minister of Petroleum Resources in respect of industry activities. That dual role was still there until very recently. These provisions of the law were eventually repealed under the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021, which saw the corporation transitioning to a full limited liability company. Now let's examine the re-emergence of the regulatory sector. In 1985, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources was excised from the NNPC and re-established as a full-fledged ministry. In March 1988, some 11 years after operating under the shadows of the operating entity, the Petroleum Inspectorate Division of NNPC was brought under the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and renamed Department of Petroleum Resources. The DPR continued at its regulatory activities with jurisdiction over all aspects of the oil and gas operations from 1988 until its recent dissolution into two regulatory bodies under the PIA of 2021. The new bodies that emerged from the demise of the DPR include the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, responsible for the upstream activities, and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency, the NMDPRA, responsible for the midstream and downstream sectors of the industry. For the period between 1977 and 1985, the period between those 2 years witnessed the expansion of the refining sector of the oil and gas industry. Now, parts from the Shell BP refinery built in Port Harcourt in 1965, the Warri Refinery and Petrochemicals plant established in 1978, and then the Kaduna Refinery in 1980. The new Port Harcourt Refinery, new in quote, Port Harcourt Refinery was the latest and was established in 1989. There is no argument that the refineries have not performed in line with the expectations of consumers as well as the NNPC itself.
Whether this is related to its self-regulatory roles is a different matter. When a man is conflicted, it's difficult to take decisions until 2021, when there was a separation and order was in place. The roles and responsibilities of DPR, now NUPRC, in relation to industry regulation was covered essentially in the Petroleum Act of 1969, which has had to undergo several revisions, including enactment of regulatory policies, guidelines to bolster its operations, especially in relation to the downstream sector of the industry. The regulator also had to contend with certain practices in the industry, including gas flaring, crude oil fiscalization and pricing, as well as acreage management. While the DPR, now NUPRC, depended on old tools for the management of its operations, it did a lot to document the activities of the operating companies in the form of maps and the establishment of coordinates. The DPR also saw the award of blocks under the Petroleum Sharing Contract arrangement, in which the NNPC was the awardee and representative of government in such assets, an arrangement that was carried over to the deepwater licensing round, the first of which took place in 1993. The first major test of the ministry and its regulatory agency came with the dwindling fortune of the oil and gas industry shortly after gaining its independence. Owing to the extant fiscal regime at that time, coupled with low crude oil price that the OPEC body could not uphold, the industry witnessed low investment levels, which required government intervention. This led to establishment of the Memorandum of Understanding between the government and the IOCs, which largely merged royalty and taxes into one body with a view to lowering the fiscal demands imposed on operators. The first of the MOUs was signed by the IOCs in 1986, based on which companies were entitled to earn what they called reserve addition bonus upon undertaking exploratory activities. I want to read this again, and I think my good friend Jim Morife will understand. In 1986, based on which companies were entitled to earn reserve addition bonus upon undertaking exploration activities, among other incentives. This aspect of the incentive was, however, discontinued on account of abuse, wherein companies filed for reserve increase based on re-evaluation of assets. They juggle maps and then add values based on volume that had come in from extension and appraisal, but not exploration. And without commencing the drilling activities, such claims, the whole MOU itself became extinct in early 2000. Just after retirement of Ogbueshi Osuno in May 1993, deepwater licensing rounds, the first of which was carried out in 1993, became one of the major areas of focus of the regulator in terms of the acquisition of the multi-client speculative seismic data. I think it is good for me to say that we tend to forget when we said that Ogbueshi, yes, did physics in University of Ibadan. Then he became the chief geophysicist in Shell BP when I was employed. I always tell this story. Please forgive me, sir. Because he told me when I joined in February of 1971, he said, go to the field. And I was looking like, what's this man telling me not to go to the field? I want to be in the lab. He said, no, go to the field. But I listened. And I'm glad I'm one of the few that listened to his knowledge, his advice. Even today, I can tell you, it was one of the three people who encouraged me when I said, Oga, I'm tired of Shell. And he said, go. I don't want to give him the credit for that, sir. Thank you very much, sir. just after the deepwater licensing rounds for the first, which carried out in 1983. But one of the major areas of focus was the multi-client speculative seismic data, carving out acreages and assisting in rolling out requisite laws of the operation of the assets. Expectedly, most of the contenders were the major operating companies, with a few indigenous players that eventually partnered with IOCs for the operations of these deepwater blocks. Production from deepwater oil fields commenced in 2001 with Ajib Abo Field, followed in 2005 by Snepco's Shell's Bonga Field. Please listen to this, it's very interesting. If you didn't do the research, you wouldn't know. An important milestone, as even after 20 years, Bonga Field is still in production. And Bonga North only had its FID last year, meaning another 20 years, that Bonga acreage, 40 years potential for a field that was licensed by him in those days before he left the service. That's a good credit to him. Not long after that startup of the deepwater production was the operational disruption that took place in Niger Delta in 2006, when militants went on a rampage that took several fields in the conventional, mainly onshore terrain out of operations. Though the industry has largely recovered from the destruction that took place, there was no doubt that the impact continues to linger in our minds and the industry players. For example, the reserve versus production information released by the NUPRC in 2024 for the country's onshore terrain in the Niger Delta shows the inverse relationship between established reserves and production rates in different terrains. This shows the deepwater with the least reserves having the highest level of production. Several schools of thought believe that Nigeria is a gas province with some oil some amount of oil. While that might be true, and credit should go to the players that have actively engaged in gas commercialization, including the Nigerian Liquid Natural Gas Limited, LNG, the effort at monetizing the gas continues to be an uphill task, especially now that concerns are being expressed over the impact of greenhouse gas in the form of global warming. Efforts on this matter that commenced way back in the 1980s were still ongoing, and it is hoped that a time will come when oilfield gas flares will be completely extinguished. Now, under the PIA, the regulator, NUPRC, ensures that no field development proposal is approved without a definitive gas commercialization plan. Another encouraging initiative in this refining is the refining policy, which gave companies with plans to establish refineries the opportunity to import petroleum products. I want to pause so that we can get that sunk properly. That people who planned or who gave intentions to put a refinery in place were given licenses to import products. That creates corruption. This led to the establishment of several modular refineries, and more recently, the Dangote refinery with a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day. Today, the total combined nameplate capacity of all functional petroleum refineries in Nigeria is about 1.095 million barrels stream day, including the dormant NNPC refineries. Let us examine local content initiative and indigenous operatorship program. Being upstream people, which we are, I would like to end with some of the outstanding industry policies that have changed lives as well as the outlook of the Nigerian upstream sector for good. These key policies are: 1, the local content policy, 2010. 2, the marginal field operations. These two are the most dramatic policy pursuits witnessed in the industry. Both policies started about the same time in the late 1990s. While the local content policy was predicated on the experience of Norway, which witnessed several indigenous companies becoming major service providers, the marginal field operation went through a more tortuous path. The local content policy was meant to provide the basis for local sourcing of the numerous items used in the oil and gas industry, including, but not limited to, cement, mud materials, pipelines, and such sophisticated equipment like pumps, metering systems, Christmas trees, wellheads, and among other services. The pursuit of local input, which started as an NNPC initiative under the divisional head, quickly snowballed into the promulgation of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act on the 22nd of April 2010. Under the control of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, the Act mandates the NCDMB to develop, monitor, and implement Nigerian content in the country's oil and gas industry to boost local participation and capacity. Now, let us examine the marginal field issue, which I'm sure most of us are very conversant with. The marginal field operatorship program started December 33, under Decree 33, as promulgated in 1996, under General Abacha, after a technical thing. Let me repeat this again so that we are all aware of the contributions of FNAPE to this country's efforts. The marginal field operatorship program started as Decree 33, promulgated in 1996 under General Abacha, after a technical paper presented at one of FNAPE's technical meetings. The paper was essentially an awareness initiative spearheaded by FNAPE regarding the future of the industry vis-a-vis the expertise ingrained within its membership. The marginal field operatorship program became the second phase of an indigenous operatorship initiative that witnessed the award of blocks to several local players, most of which ended up doing nothing with their assets. The legal framework for prosecuting the marginal field operation program was enshrined as an amendment of the Petroleum Act, which allowed for the voluntary or compulsory divestment and of undeveloped fields by operating companies, mostly IOCs, after 10 years of discovery. The program itself took a strong footing in 2001 when government pronounced its establishment and went ahead with the first marginal field licensing round in 2003. However, one or two companies had earlier breasted the tape by getting their awards through the NNPC in 2001. The outcome of this unique initiative is evident in the recent divestment of several IOC assets in the conventional onshore and shallow offshore terrains of Nigerian operators who gained their experience through marginal field activities. This remarkable feat was not achieved on a platter of gold. At the time, government allocated several blocks to indigenous players, but the performance level was so abysmal to the extent that as many as 40 blocks, 40, were revoked in one day under the Obasanjo administration in 2000, year 2000. This probably informed the decision to start with smaller operations from which these indigenous entities could cut their operational teeth. Today, at least 3 of the major oil operating companies in Nigeria have literally divested all their assets in the conventional terrain, with indigenous independents taking over, and this trend is likely to continue, with premise that the whole of the conventional terrains would be operating ground for indigenous independence by 2030. You have to dream and pray that by 2030, there will be no IOC onshore Nigeria and shallow water. Now let us look at evolutionary trend. All long grammar, all long history. Some of us are getting bored, I understand. But let's look at the trend. I'm going to summarize the trend for you so that at least you see what is the takeaway. There was an evolutionary trend. In 1990, the Department of Petroleum Resources was formed within the Ministry of Mines and Power as petroleum activities expanded. A year after, in 1971, the Nigerian National Oil Corporation was created essentially in response to OPEC mandate for countries to take sovereignty over their oil and gas resources. 4 years after, in 1975, the DPR was upgraded into the Independent Ministry of Petroleum Resources to oversee entire sector. Ogbueshi Ben Osuno left Shell in 1973, and in 1975, DPR was upgraded into the Independent Ministry of Petroleum Resources to oversee the entire sector. You see the hand behind the industry regulator. In 1977, 2 years after, Decree 33 merged the Ministry of Petroleum. Now in 1973, we still have the military in charge of Nigeria. You can see the conflict and the confusion amongst them. In 1977, Decree 33 merged the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the NNOC to create a Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. Confusion all the time. In 1985, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources was separated from the NNPC again, with the Petroleum Inspectorate, the industry regulator, returning to its environment. Now let us look at the man we're honoring today. It's a good long story now. I'm giving you history, giving you some of the issues, some of the trends that we saw law being made. And at this point, we need to take a pause and simply imagine the roles played by Pa, Ogbueshi, Ben Osuno in the initiation, development, and implementation of the different policies I've touched on. Pa Ogbueshi Ben Osuno retired shortly after the maiden deepwater licensing round of 1993. And you can attest to his fingerprint in what the industry has achieved to date. When you look at the fact that he went in 1973 and left in 1993, 20 years. And in those 20 years, there have been evolution, changes, quiet, significant, that we can point to. Between 1979 and 1990, Ogbueshi became the first Nigerian OPEC governor and chairman of OPEC board in 1998. He was also Nigeria's permanent representative and the council member of the World Petroleum Congress 1980 to 1992, before he retired in 1993. Ogbueshi Ben Osuno retired from DPR in May 1993. In that case, all the initiatives from the reestablishment of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources in 1985, and the DPR in 1988, up to the time of his retirement, would be attributed to him. All the changes you've heard. These initiatives would include, but not limited to, the following: a merger of royalty and PPT into the revised government takeout GT to encourage exploration in the JV assets, 1986. Pursuance of gas commercialization through the formal establishment of the Nigerian LNG in 1989. Introduction of positive displacement meters to replace the widely used Coriolis meters for the crude oil fiscalization at different times. By the way, the Coriolis meters are not the most efficient meters as we know it. So he initiated the need to use the positive displacement meters, PDM, which we are using today. We thank you, sir. Initiation of the petroleum sharing contract upstream arrangement, which more or less became the norm for deepwater operations today, and the monthly compilation of activities in the oil and gas industry, even with a manual system. We thank you, Ogbueshi, for your pioneering work that has prepared the industry for us to follow. Happy birthday in good health, sound mind from all of us at FNAPE. Thank you all for your patience. Lastly, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Lastly, I want to say that the contribution to this paper was primarily, all this you heard me talk about was primarily from Mr. George Osahan, past president of FNAPE, former director of DPR, and current chairman of the board of trustees of FNAPE. Thank you.
Like to join us. Wow, that was some exhilarating story there. I was just going to ask the president or the public secretary whether they have any announcements to make before we dive into the Q&A session. But and that's exactly what she just told me. They want to make some announcements. But before then, I would like to request us one more time to applaud the delivery of Dr. Omatsola. Most respected. I think with the crowd we have here this afternoon, we're going to have a healthy conversation after this.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much, Dr. Omatsola and Dr. Osuno. And I believe you agree with me that before you leave here today, you have a better understanding of who the celebrant is. If you believe you've heard that, please, can you give the speakers a round of applause again? Thank you. So while the session was going on, we have some more fellows who came in, and they are Dr. Lola Adeshida, FNAPE. Thank you for coming. And Mr. Tony Akiosho, FNAPE, thank you for coming. And thank you for your publication on Ogbueshi Ben Osuno in the African oil and gas paper. We saw that today. Thank you very much. So if you want to know more about the celebrants, get a copy and go through. Mr. MJ Orife, FNAPE, and the current Aretadam awardee. Thank you for coming, sir. Past president also. Mr. Felix Moloku, FNAPE, thank you for coming. Mr. K. Kanu, FNAPE, we appreciate your attendance. Dr. Charles Otogite, thank you for coming, FNAPE. And online we have Mr. Ebitsuwa, FNAPE, Dr. Olajide Olufuyi, FNAPE, Mr. Christopher Enuma, FNAPE, and Dr. Anthony Ofoma, FNAPE, and the current president-elect. You can see that some of his responsibility, I play part of it, the VP play part of it today because he's unavoidably absent, but he's with us online, and he will, you hear his voice when we're giving the vote of thanks. So thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate, and the fellows of our association, I'm so proud to have so many of you here today. Please, let's continue seeing you this way at our technical sessions monthly. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. So I don't know how much time we have for the next session. Okay. Okay. So we have 20 minutes to kick around the two presentations and any other knowledge that any one of us might have to share with the rest of the participants at this gathering. I just have a few observations of my own to make as I pen down some notes during the two presentations. Professor Cookey took us through how he and Ogbueshi Osuno grew up in school together. He essentially outlined the growth of the colonial governance system in Nigeria, the impact of that system on social and career growth and progression in the civil service. Give us a long history of their control on the economy of the territory, going from agricultural to eventually resource discovery of oil and gas and its exploitation. He outlined the structural carve-out of the country politically before they finally yielded to agitation for independence. I would say in a stylish manner. You yield power to those who you like because they're your friends, and then you quote unquote make life less easy for those who are your agitators. Just like we see in today's world, those who are protesters here and there, they get shot at, they throw tear gas and spray pepper into their faces, and those who stay quietly somewhere else, they'll get the bonuses and the and the rewards. But he concluded very strongly by saying, Nigeria is not a nation yet. It's a nation in the making. And you make a nation by working hard on creating it. So the history of Nigeria as a nation will be made through working on creating that nation. I think that's a takeaway for us. Other people may have some other notes to observations to make. And Dr. Omatsola, thank you very much for refreshing some of our memories of the early days of petroleum regulation in Nigeria. It's a little more technical than the first presentation. Many dates, many events, some conflicting, some in sync with one another. But largely the fact that there was a driving undertone in the growth of petroleum regulation in the country. And that undertone was anchored by those. And when I say those, it's more or less the one person we're celebrating today, who was the first of almost every one of these activities. The first to leave the private sector for the national oil industry, very closely followed by their Chief Jim Orife, these are the people who anchored the startup of the evolution of the national oil company, oil corporation. But focusing more specifically on the regulatory aspect of the business, Ogbueshi Ben Osuno left some footprints as the government struggled with itself and grappled with how to deal with issues and the challenges that came with trying to streamline operations, streamline activities, streamline the development of the resource for this country. And you had a lot of it in the presentation by Dr. Omatsola. In the middle of that, they tried to see how to sustain investment through release of various bonuses and try to, again, anchor it through the medium of the petroleum regulator. So you see all kinds of, here and there about the industry and managing it. I'm sure Tony will have a lot of stuff to garner out of this for his publication as time goes on. I know he doesn't miss a beat when we talk about stuff like this. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing today is that we are finally beginning to realize that it doesn't just depend on making assumptions that things will work out. Again, back to what Professor Cookey highlighted in his own paper, that you have to work on it. You have to work on it. And working on it means everybody has to team up together. That's my take. And hopefully, as we chat further for the next 15 minutes or so, we'll be able to come to terms with this and all get on the same page. Because if we were to release a communique on today's session, we should have a point at which we all come together and we're in agreement as to what it is the rest of those who are not here today can gain from what our conversation has been. So I am going to throw it open to the floor, and I would say no more than 2 questions at a time or comments at a time, and then we can reach out to the 2 presenters to deal with whatever it is that need to be dealt with in terms of questions. Okay.
Okay, so we'll start here in the room. We need 2 questions, so fastest fingers. Raise your hands. Okay, there's one here.
Good afternoon, grandfathers of the industry. They are now grandfathers of the industry, not fathers of the industry. We typically talk about fathers of the industry. We can say Pastor Dan Defo, we can say, but when we now begin to look at grandfathers, then that's when we go to Osuno. I was looking forward to, I know that he's very, he prefers the regulatory part to be highlighted. As a matter of fact, when I met with him in his office in Ajah 15 years ago, to figure out this pioneer of the very first geophases that Shell hired, and the man who in a sense, the eventual first managing director, Nigerian Shell, succeeded. That's really what it is. You have to trace the trajectory from Osuno to Basilomi. That's how it happened. If they didn't hire Osuno, they won't get an Omi. And when Omi came in 2002, everybody was now beginning to say that, oh, we're beginning to have Nigerians at the top of the majors. Now, characters like Osinaburu are now saying, no, you don't have to be MD or but the question I wanted to find out from Doctor on behalf of the doctor, your own doctor, sir, because you are closer to the grandpa than he is. Actually, honestly, it's today I find out that Dr. Fadodo is a young man, honestly. I mean, honestly, 66, no, Dr. Fadodo, no. So that's it. So the question is, one of the highlights of, I think, that conversation with him 15 years ago was the fact that he headed the unit, that drilled those wells for NNOC. And you can imagine that in 1975, a Nigerian-owned company, drilled wells, and made discoveries that drilled 7 wells in the southeast offshore Niger Delta. They didn't drill onshore, they drilled offshore, and they made 4 discoveries. And the sense that I want Dr. Omatsola to help us highlight was because I've read in few places that at that point in time, the southeast offshore wasn't the go-to area. And that's we're geologists, so let's leave the regulatory aside. Let's just help explain some of these things. What was the geologic understanding of the southeast offshore 50 years ago? That's my question. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Ogbueshi, for being who you are. And I didn't also know, okay, so this government college are the things that the professor was referring to. They're the places where they breed African Englishmen. Well done, sir.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Eruda speakers.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay, Emeka Ezekwelu. I'm the treasurer of FNAPE. I work with SLB. So I wouldn't know if I fit in this carpet, but I'm sure we are talking about sustainability, which is the young will learn and grow. So in that phase, let me now ask my question. Most times we hear in Nigeria the efforts that is being done, oil exploration, that the policies involved, our regulation involved. And I know that people like Ogbueshi Ben Osuno have been contributing. I know that I don't call him dog. My prof, Omatsola, has been contributing. I know that our leader, partner, has been contributing, and so on and so forth. Now, we don't seem to get to value in Nigeria. Rather, what we see, all effort done, no result. I'm asking, because we are privileged to have people like you today. What is really the problem? Is it because what we hear always is government, but we know that this government we are talking about are human beings like our brothers and sisters, our colleagues, and so on and so forth. They listen to us. We can talk to them. What is actually the real problem? Okay, right now, we are talking about meeting up OPEC quota. We have not. Now, are we saying that is that because Nigeria is not producing enough? Or what is actually happening in these policies vis-a-vis all the advice people like Prof and Osuno and the rest are giving? What is the challenge? Do we hear from you? What is actually the problem? Not the pepper one, because we normally hear pepper. Niger Delta youth destruction or this and that. That's not what we want to hear today. We want to really understand. Is it that we are not getting it right in terms of advice we are giving the government, or that when they are giving the government, maybe international politics, or want to learn more outside what we hear in paper today? Like now, we are struggling between 1.7, 1.4, and 1.7. For a long time, this has been the case. What's actually the challenge and the problem? Thank you so much.
Okay, we don't have any questions online. Okay, so maybe we just round. I wanted to give one opportunity here if it's possible. Okay. We'll close it out now.
Then you can go.
Tony, a problem. But the man you should ask that question, the man who should answer is Jide, because he made the big discovery in the eastern part of Niger Delta. But now, what is my understanding is this. Chevron took the western part. We should recognize two things about these two areas of Niger Delta. Very key, call it geological features. In the west, which is where Chevron they have a canyon system called the Upoma Canyon, creating truncation traps, creating opportunities, both pre-channel and post-channel. In the east, they had the Kwaibo and the Afam. The Afam doesn't extend as deep as the Kwaibo. The Kwaibo channel system is very heavy, and it also associated with collapsed shell, the rubble beds. But the two key features, geological features that I remember, and I can vote for, are the two channel systems. One is Biocene to Biocene. The other one to the west is Oligocene to Biocene, 15 to 20 million years, one in the east, or 5 to present. Now, the Americans came in. They didn't go to the central part of Delta. Why? I don't know. But the state where probably they have already in the Gulf Coast the experience of such trapping configurations. So it's easier for them to make discoveries in those two areas. But I think I will leave the coordinator who made one of the biggest discoveries in the East to tell us a bit more about that. So, Tony, what I have seen so far in the East is the Kwaibo. Then you have what are other formations that you have? You have the rubble beds. You also have upper and middle, what do you call it now? Biafra, yes. Upper and middle Biafra, and then lower Biafra. And I understand lower Biafra is high pressured, so they don't go into it. But I think going forward, Mr. Seplat has to develop creative thinking to begin to look at older sequences older than Middle Miocene, because there is still a lot. Don't forget, Middle Miocene times, the shoreline probably would be around Port Harcourt or even around Owerri. Yes, reconstruct geology. And then you begin to see features in deep water that will be pre-Kwaibo sequences. But in the West, you do have that channel system And I can understand why the two American companies chose East and West and not the central part of Delta. That's my only answer that I can give. Beyond that, maybe somebody else knows that, so we can discuss this matter, because we're here to look at the features, geology, a bit of geology today. Otherwise, I'm not sure we'll be happy going on without some geology. Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more question from online. So I don't know who will be able to answer it, but let me go quickly. Let me read it. So listening to this, okay.
About
This is
all work and no result. What is the problem?
online question.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question fully. But
Question from online, which I'm going.
well, there's a second question.
Yes. So we have a question from Emeka Ebogo. So he's saying, listening to these eulogies today, one cannot help but feel the weight of a life that shaped the very foundations of Nigeria's oil and gas industry. He was a pace setter, one who expanded frontiers, built institutions, and opened doors for countless professionals. His legacy is not only in the projects completed or the assets commissioned, but in the people whose careers he touched and whose lives he transformed. As we honor such a towering figure, I find myself reflecting on the thousands of men and women who continue to carry the industry on their shoulders every day, onshore, offshore, in offices, in communities, remote fields. Their resilience sustains the sector he helped build. Yet, as the industry has evolved, something else has become increasingly visible. Many of today's players are focused on commercial performance, operational targets, and competitive positioning. But far fewer seem genuinely concerned about the well-being, long-term development, and human sustainability of the workforce. This shift raises a difficult but necessary question about the future. And so I am compelled to ask, in celebrating the giants of our industry, are we doing enough to safeguard the well-being, dignity, and long-term sustainability of the people who keep this industry alive? If the human element continues to be neglected, what does that mean for the sustainability of the industry itself? What would his legacy demand of us today? Not only in terms of production targets and operational excellence, but in how we protect the mental health, safety, career mobility, and overall humanity of our workforce. Because ultimately, no industry can endure if the people who power it are not sustained. So your thoughts around that?
Good afternoon. First of all, again thank you for everybody who is here. And the question about why are we not getting results? I would probably like to see the problem in a totally different dimension. Are we really not seeing results? If you tend, Ogbueshi, just for a moment, and you understand what the industry was like when he left university, when he joined SPDC, when he went to NNOC, Department of Petroleum Resources, whatever you have it today, and then leapfrog to what it is that we have today, you will see that the Nigerian petroleum industry has gone through as many cycles of aging that Ogbueshi has gone through. There are times when in this industry, if you worked in Chevron, you couldn't even enter the same taxi as somebody who worked in Shell. I mean, that was a deep professional suspicion that was not written, but was, correct me if I'm wrong, practiced until FNAPE came into being, when all young professionals can come together into one room. So I would just say that you may not see, but I think this industry has grown. I will probably just wish that as you also mature and you look at the stratigraphy of all these aged people. Anthony has told me that I don't count anymore as an old person. So thanks, you suddenly realize that really this industry has grown and is still growing. But then you ask the question, why are we not seeing results? Well, it's an old industry, and the industry itself is becoming tired. And what I would say is that the new life of the industry belongs to you. And when I say I'm not talking about you as a person, I'm talking about your generation. And I think it's just your generation, the discipline that you bring into it, the amount of capacity that you bring into it, that is going to allow us to get to that destination that you wish for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fatona. It appears to me that Emeka's question about all work and no results is somewhat tied and related to the online comments that was read out by the publicity secretary. Thank you. I begin to feel like our generation that has gone into retirement obviously did not see what you people appear to be experiencing or seeing now, and therefore may not be in the best position to assess and correctly evaluate the basis for what appears to be evolving now. And where the retiring generation is living off, the incoming one and the growing ones should be latching onto and further driving the activities and the results. Now, what is missing is what needs to be highlighted. Now, this is FNAPE. This is not Shell. This is not Chevron. This is not Aradel. This is FNAPE. And therefore, when we come to a FNAPE platform, we should be able to rub minds on the basis of being colleagues, whether we're of one generation or the other. And so if there are specific experiences that are occurring in today's world and being experienced by your generation, there should be a way of highlighting it so that it can be addressed, at a professional body level like this, from a standpoint of, let's make it work better if you think it's not working well enough. And the intent is that when we sit at these sessions and hold technical and professional conversation, we should take back something to our employment basis individually and see where we can apply those learnings to impact our ongoing work so that the results you appear not to be seen can be seen. It may be administrative, it may be really technological, I'm not sure. You probably know better because you are the one on the spot now, okay? So these are my viewpoints about how I understand what you're trying to ask about. And as against trying to throw the ball back at you, I say you are in a better position to answer the question.
I'd like to add a few things. May God bless our icon, Ogbueshi Osuno. And I know what I say because I'm pretty close to him in terms of talking to him. But let me ask you a question. Has any of us here laid the foundation for discoveries in the future? How many of us? What is the name of our society or association? Nigeria Exploration, Association of Explorationists and what producers, right? Something like NAPE. How many of us are explorers in this place? Let us talk to ourselves. Because if you sit down and expect government to come and explore for you, they won't do it. Yes, every year we have our technical session and our conference, and we go and release this so-called press release to them, and no actions are taking place. We are beginning to mix politics and science. And when you do that, you have a confused system that was predominant during Ogbueshi's time when he resolved most of the things. Don't depend on government. We're explorers by nature. Look for that exploration target, bring it on stream, make sure you have it available. Don't forget our brothers and sisters in Europe who are running after sun, moon, wind, and everything. They have come now. Even the president of BlackRock recently accepted that, okay, forget about wind and sun and everything. You cannot build all our centers we're about to build because the need for that center is so much that we need oil and gas. That means you are relevant. But are we ready to be relevant? Do we have that resource to find more crude oil and gas so that when Baba goes, because we are going to follow him, we all will go one day. What are you generations doing about future? 30 years from now, when, as I predicted, we hand over everything onshore and shallow water to Nigerians. Are you ready to find a new place? Are you ready to find new discoveries that will sustain this country and for export as well? If you are not, going to government every year and telling them this is the policy is nonsense. I'm a very factual guy. I'm very pragmatic. So I want to transfer that responsibility on you, all of you that are sitting down here. We have done our best in our own time. It is your turn now to ensure that it happens. Without it, there'll be no NAPE in 30 years. Thank you.
Okay. One last question, I understand. No comment. Chief Jim Orife.
Thank you very much. Somebody asked a question. Why was it that the deep offshore was not being addressed by the IOCs? But before I say anything, I want to pay tribute to my boss, Ogbueshi Osuno. He had a crop of young people who their heads were scattering, and they were giving us ideas in their heads. And he was able to lead them. He listened to them and questioned them. I said, okay, let's try it. And I'll tell you what happened. After we drilled the first, I had to tell this story so that people can understand. Because there may not be an opportunity to tell the story. We did the first set of 6 wells. I had 4 discoveries. We're happy. After that, what do we do? We said, well, Brazil is drilling deep offshore. If the theory of the separation of the continents is true. Let's try it. Let's go to deeper waters. And where those deeper waters, 6 prospects. In deeper waters that nobody had drilled that day before. About 30 meters further down to the Atlantic. We did those 5 wells. 5 were successful. And this is the man who gave the approval, who listened, and was able to take the blame if anything went wrong. So that is the story of Chief Osuno. We had no responsibility. We only did what we had to do as young men. But he had to carry that responsibility. If anything went wrong, we had to take the responsibility and bear the consequence. But thank God that he succeeded. And it's from there that with the story of the deep offshore started to thrive. Thank you very much.
So I'm afraid this is the last question. So we're going to move on now to the next phase, view of time. Thank you. So I'll call on the president now to thank you for the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sirs, my bosses. Thank you very much for the presentations. I have learned a lot from the lectures of today. And Mr. Babajide Agbabiaka, thank you for anchoring this session very, very well. And I want to speak on behalf of all of us that are coming behind you, that as members of FNAPE, we know our ideas find oil and gas. We assure you that we'll go further, deeper, make more discoveries, and bring more oil and gas to the surface. Thank you. If you all can achieve it, we all can also do so. So we assure you will do that. Thank you very much, sirs. So this is just a token from FNAPE. So.
And this for him as well. Okay. Oh.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So, okay, so you can go down now. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Oh, group picture, sorry. Yeah, if there's
Okay, so good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. If we can please give our highly esteemed panel another round of applause, it will be fitting. It is such an honor to have the opportunity and the privilege to celebrate and honor remarkable individuals. All ESCO members, the president says, all ESCO members here, come to take picture, all ESCO members. All ESCO members in the room. Mr. President, Madam President is calling you, please. All ESCO members. Please, when you are coming, bring your smile with you. Don't leave it on the chair. So truly a privilege to celebrate greatness when we have the opportunity, giving people their flowers when they can perceive it, when they can feel it, and when they can appreciate it. And that is something FNAPE continues to do excellently well, honoring members who, as professionals and as individuals, please make sure my voice is in that picture. I want to see my voice in the picture. Who in individual capacity and in professional capacity have contributed in no small measure to the growth of earth science in Nigeria and beyond. And of course, so I want to say again, a happy 90th birthday to one of such highly esteemed FNAPE members, an industry titan and icon. It's an honor for me to be here to join FNAPE to celebrate you, sir. As I allow them take their seats, I'm directed by Madam President to mention the name of some of the ESCO members who are here. The Vice President is here, Mr. Emmanuel Egbele FNAPE. The Public Secretary, Mrs. Somime Oguntola. Financial Secretary, Mrs. Abidemi Beogore. The Treasurer, Mr. Emeka Ezekwelo. And the Editor-in-Chief, Dr. Adekunle Shofolabo. That last one, I won't. Anyways, it's. So we'll indulge you to please give us a few minutes. Keep your eyes on the screen. We want to tell a little bit of story of the man that we honor and celebrate today. We're here celebrating Ogbueshi Ben Osuno FNAPE. Please give him one more round of applause. Give him one more round of applause. 90 looks good on you, sir. So please keep your eyes on the screen. Let us tell you a short story about our honoree this afternoon. I'll be back to take brief comments from 3 senior members and then a few more before we listen to the honoree. But for now, please keep your eyes on the screen.
Ogbueshi Ben Anene Osuno, FNAPE, born on the 28th January 1936 to Mr. and Mrs. Bernard Osuno of Umogbo family, Ugamuma village, Obosi. He attended Government College Umuahia 1949 to 1955 and went on to graduate in physics from the University College, Ibadan in 1960. He then worked as a petroleum exploration geophysicist first with Shell BP Petroleum Development Company and later with Nigerian National Oil Company, NNOC, and Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, before voluntarily retiring in 1992. He then served as special advisor to the Minister of Petroleum Resources 1992 to 1993. While in active service, he worked variously as Shell BP's senior geophysicist, general manager, exploration and production of NNOC and NNPC, director petroleum resources, and director planning, research and statistics of the Ministry of Petroleum. He represented Nigeria on OPEC Board of Governors and served as the chairman of OPEC Board in 1988. He also served as Nigeria's representative on the Permanent Council of the World Petroleum Congress, Chairman, National Committee of the World Petroleum Congress for Nigeria, Chairman of African Petroleum AP PLC, Chairman, Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC, now Aradel, Chairman, Petroleum Training Institute, PTI Warri, and Chairman, Petroleum Technology Development Fund, PTDF. He is a Fellow of Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, FNAPE, Fellow of Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, NMGS, Registered Member of the Council of Nigerian Mining Engineers and Geoscientists, COMEG, Holder of FNAPE Pioneering Excellence Award 2015. In 2015, FNAPE initiated the Ben Osuno Pioneering Excellence Award that recognizes and celebrates excellence and outstanding contributions by individuals or groups in pioneering activities in the field of geosciences in general and the Nigerian oil and gas industry in particular. The award honors members who, by their individual or collective actions, have demonstrated exceptional creativity and leadership in proposing, pioneering, and/or transforming approaches to major challenges in the oil and gas industry or the academia in related fields. In retirement, he remains a petroleum consultant, patron Obasi Development Union, Lagos, and patron Umuogbo Family Union, Lagos. Happy 90th birthday, Ogbueshi Ben Anene Osuno, FNAPE. NAPE celebrates you.
Ogbueshi Anene Ben Osuno, FNAPE, FNMGS. The applause can be better, don't you think? When you celebrate greatness like this, it is also a delightful thing to have other great men and women in the room to celebrate such an individual. And because of time, we've picked just 3 of such great personalities who would come, and I'm appealing to them to please, I'm directed, it's not me, I'm directed, SARS, to ask you to please make your remark for a maximum of 120 seconds. Again, it's not me, I'm directed to. Who am I to tell you how much time you will speak? Well, please welcome first off one of such great and respected members of NAPE, Chief Chamberlain Oyibo, FNAPE. Just to make a few remarks about the honoree and our celebrant for today.
All protocols duly observed. I'm happy to be here to talk about Ben Osuno. The year I went into secondary school, class 1 in government college, was when he was leaving. 1955. I think I must have met him for 3 months, because what has happened was when he finished, when we went for our interview in the school, those who had just finished were those who supervised the young candidates. But by the time we went in September, he had gone. But I never knew him until later in life. I worked under Ben Osuno. When you talk of this dual reporting, the confusion in the system, I was reporting to Osuno in inspectorate and reporting to Marinho in operations. So you can imagine, as branch superintendent, I will send my results, my report on all the well drilled, the crude oil exports to him. And then all the pipelines we are doing, the gas stations, and all the construction and NPC was doing to Mario. Thank God I was not torn between the two people. Ben Osuno is a very soft but firm man. If you work for somebody like him, you know that you worked for a human being. I cannot say too much except to say that those of us who have been in that government business, working for government and industry, I think we're a special breed of people. You have to face the political implications of that job. Why haven't the refineries worked? Because of government interference. Government. I run 2 refineries at the head, and I know what I'm talking about. Why didn't we develop the finds, the discoveries? Government wouldn't approve funds. But then people say, oh, NIPC, why have you gone? You haven't gone far. How can you go? How can you run fast when the person, somebody's holding your hand behind their back? So I don't want to take too much time except to say that I've been a privilege to have Ben as my senior old boy of my school. We used to say we are the best secondary school in Nigeria. I don't want to go to that, but in the NPC alone, we've had Lawrence Amu, Edmond Dakoru, Ben Osuno, Chambers Oyibo, all at the head of the oil industry who are from Government College in Moya. So give us a round. My relationship with Ben has continued until about 10 years ago. My son wanted to marry an Ogbueshi girl. So the father of the girl said, I hear this young man's father worked in an NPC. So he went to Ben Osuno to say, do you know about Chambers Oyibo? And then when I heard that my son wanted to marry an Ogbueshi girl, I went to Ben to say, do you know about this family? So 2 of us went to the same person. So I want to say, Ben, happy birthday. May you continue to be strong. And Nkole, may you continue to look after him as you have been doing. So happy birthday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Chamberlain Oyibo FNAPE. Sir, if anybody disputes the fact that your secondary school is the best, they should go and tell us how many of their old boys are head of NMPC pastor present. It's the first speaks for themselves, right? Please give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay, without delay, let's move over to the second person who will be speaking to us, one of our revered and respected senior members as well, Pastor Daniel Ndefo, FNAPE. Please, a warm welcome.
Thank you. There was one meeting in my village, and one man was told to speak. He couldn't speak English very well, but he always tried to express himself in English. Then he said, Mazi Okeke has spoke. Mazi Okoye has spake. Then he said, it is now my turn to spark. Now, when you see Ben Ogbueshi Ben, now they have added part to you now. So I'll tell the rest of the clan that it's now Pa Ogbueshi Ben. We are related, but he's fair in complexion, and I'm dark. Maybe we were created in the night, and then they were created in the day. But he's somebody that you will love to sit down and talk with. He never imposes himself, his status on you. He can converse on anything, discuss anything. I know him to that level. He worked for the government. But do you know this man has no, is it OFR, GFR, all these things, they never gave him. And it looks as if because explorationists, we walk 3,000 meters below the sea level. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you are in the oil industry, you're always thinking of something down. And because of that, you're always forgotten. Because the whole argument and the whole whatever I shared is shared on, you understand what I'm saying? But that doesn't matter. When he was in the industry, when he was in DPR and NNOC, you know, I worked for IOC, I worked for Petroleum, which is Total Energies, and I know what the white men say about him and his colleagues. Jim, yeah, you know, all of you, that you're all so good. But they keep wondering, why is this thing not consistent? Like somebody asked, why is there no policy that is sustained? Because each government comes, a new policy starts. Like somebody is cooking soup, I want to eat okra soup. Before the okra soup is done, they say, put it down. The next person will come and say, start a goosey soup. Start a wedu soup. That's what is the problem today. But I thank God for FNAPE. I saw Kole Oshe. Yes. You remember what I told you this morning? Each time FNAPE will meet end of the year convention, you know, we will make a communique. He's always the rapporteur, you know, and nothing happens. But I'm beginning to see that there is a trend now. Something is beginning to happen. Okay? I'm beginning to see that what we have been crying for before, you know, professionals are now being put in positions to make decisions for the oil industry. And that is why I want the youths to capitalize on that. Before, a carpenter can be put to come and represent the government here, and he will just do whatever he wants. So I want to thank God that we have our own who has worked. There are many of you, I call them unsung heroes of the oil industry. I retire them, all of them. But today we have the opportunity to have somebody who is 90 amongst us, and we are celebrating him. Now I know that we will celebrate more of people like that. I want you also to thank the wife. The wife is an Ogbueshi too. You know, behind every successful man, there is always a woman. She has continued to, you know, stand by the husband. So today is really a very great day for us. And I thank you all. I thank Life Fatono, Ebi, I thank all of you. You are, you know, you made all these things possible. Jide, all of you. In fact, when the day he told me he was going solo, he was leaving share, I told you remember, you are laughing. I said, why do you want to go and suffer? They are paying you salary here. You want to go and do what? But today, I can see what, you know, is happening in his life. Thank you very much, everyone that has come here. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Daniel Nde for FNAPE. Please give him a round of applause, giving us his own insights on our honoree. Without delay, let's move on to the next and final speaker in this segment. Please join me in welcome Mr. James Orife, FNAPE, and our latest Arrett Adams Award recipient. Keep the applause coming. Keep the applause coming.
Pa Ben Ogbueshi, or Pa Ogbueshi Ben Osuno. When I first met you in 1974 on Warehouse Road, when you came as head of exploration, you called us, you spoke to us, and we never forgot what you told us. That was why we had the courage to come to you with some crazy ideas. And by God's grace, you took those ideas, you took the risks on these young people who were crazy, who were not believing what the international oil companies were saying. I said, let's do it. And you see, you don't understand. I'm going to move now. You don't understand what that thing you did to us. You put your reputation from Shell on the line. For instance, Shimayo didn't know you. To one of these younger boys whom you were talking that said, there is one so person who had been this in Shell. That is the man you should go for. And that was Shimayo came to you. You didn't apply. You did not apply. He came to you. He came to visit in Port Harcourt and he came to you. That was why he chose you. You were not an accident. You were anointed somehow. So let everybody know that. Those who didn't know, that is the story. On top of that, you gave us the courage to do anything we wanted to do. And you did not, if things went wrong at any point in time, you didn't blame us. You said it was part of the learning process. We made some mistakes, but you covered us up. So, sir, you have been an operator, and a regulator, and an owner operator. You have covered all the fields in the industry. At 90, I think I'm one of the happiest persons to see you attain this age. And I'm praying secretly somewhere that we will get to 100. All the bad things that happen in the industry, none of them happened during your time. RAB was not during your time. You are left. When companies were even reducing their reserves, you were not there, you had left. They won't have dared to do those things if you were there. Because they knew you had gone, they tried it and they did it and went away with it. So, sir, I won't want to say any much longer. We thank God for your life. You know, I am your unappointed representative to some locations where, for instance, if you are not able to go, I tell you what happened. And that is the way you have taken me to represent you in places where you cannot attend. Let me say it, in our pension team, in our pension this, I'm a representative there. Whatever we agreed to, I will come and tell you. That's what I'm still carrying that duty, and I'm waiting I will do it until about 100 years. Sir, in closing, I want to thank your wife. Your beautiful I don't know how to describe this woman. When we were small geologists, so used to call us every quarter to our house to entertain us. It wasn't her duty, but she was supporting her husband. And my wife and I cannot forget those days when we were living off Eric Moore. Those days. Madam, I thank you very much. I thank you very much. I thank you very much. Because for a man to get to this age, he must have a good wife. A wife that is patient, a wife that listens, a wife that endures. To be married for over 60 years, not be small thing, no. Not be small thing, no. So, madam, I thank you very much, and I pray that God will keep you and our Oga together as long as He has decided, if Jesus carries. In Jesus' name I pray.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's give Mr. James Orife FNAPE another round of applause. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to speed through what is left. In another 10, there about 15 minutes, we'll be done with everything and we'll be ready to serve lunch. But before we get there, let me quickly ask the technical to please put on the screen now the Kudo board. Now, if you follow FNAPE across all social media handles, a soft copy of this is going to our papa. Then if you want to add your goodwill to it, please follow FNAPE on all social media handles and leave your own comment. The link is on FNAPE's social media handle. Follow that link and you will leave your own comment on this before it gets to him. Now, that said, I'd like to invite our esteemed president of FNAPE, Mrs. Olajumoke Ajayi, FNAPE. Madam President, Ma, if you can please join me on stage. It's time that we present a gift to our honoree. Following that, I will want Somime, those that will carry the cake, to be on standby. Please join me now in welcoming Pa Ogbueshi Ben Anene Osuno and Mama Nkoli Osuno. Please, Ma and Daddy, please join me on stage. Keep the applause coming. Keep the applause coming. They are the reason we're here. Until they get on stage to join the president, don't stop that applause. He deserves it. We're giving him his flowers now. We're giving it to him now that he can feel it. He can perceive it. What a delightful moment this is. What a truly historic moment. Pa Osuno will remember this all the days of his life with a great smile on his face. Please keep the applause. Lawrence, you need to help Pa and Ma come up. No, who's coming? Thank you. Should I move this? Yes. Okay. Lawrence. I said, keep the applause coming till he meets the president. President, this way, man. This way, man. Yeah, sure.
If mommy would be there, mommy will be on that side. On behalf of, you can have your seat, please. So, sir, Pa Ogbueshi, Ben Osuno, on behalf of FNAPE, I present this card to you. The signature of many are on it, as you can see. So you have a lot to read on this card. So this is for you, for the excellent work you've done in the industry. We younger ones are benefiting from what you have sown in the industry in your time. The Lord who has kept you till this time will keep you the more in sound health. Thank you very much, sir.
Let me hold this for you. Yes. Can I ask the Advisory Council Chair, BOT Chair, to please join us on stage now, please? And then the ESCO members who are here, please join us for a quick photo op with the President. And please, those I'm calling, please join us. Please join us. Please, our past presidents who are in the room, please join us. Our past presidents. Those I'm calling, you can come through this way. You can come through the staircase on my right if they're moving. Past presidents, please come this way. Please come this way. Advisory Council Chair, dim the light on the screen for picture, please. For picture. Our AC Chair, our BOT Chair, our past presidents, please come. Our current president is already here. Our sponsor, Aradel, who is here for Aradel? Who is here for Aradel? Please come up as well. Aradel, our sponsor. After the cutting of the cake, our honoree would make this way. Oh, there's one here, sir. There's one. It's the 90 that I'm trying to turn. Yeah. So Daddy, please approach the cake. Approach the cake. Yeah. Yes, sir. Please come this way. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. This space. So Daddy, please have your hand. Okay. Yes, mommy, please. You too. Every other person can straight. Okay. So usually when I'm celebrating a birthday this high or retirement, I try not to do the anchoring of the cake cutting myself. So I have to put somebody on the spot. Since all my other elders are on the stage, Daddy, sir, please, can you help me? Can you help me, sir, anchor the cutting of this cake? However you want to do it. Just help me anchor. It's 90 where I said, I'm not anywhere close in experience, in age, but you, sir, please, help me anchor the cutting of this cake. So, Mr. Blast, are you ready? I'm about to go. Madam, are you ready? I'm about to go. Can I cut the cake and we'll do this a little later? But keep setting up. I can't keep my elder standing, eh? Keep setting up. Caesar, please. You tell them at what point you want them to cut the cake.
Very much a privilege to be asked to conduct the cutting of the cake for our nano-generation, Ogbueshi Ben Osuno. Thank you very much for this honor. It is appreciated. On the count of 90, I would start from 10. I would start from 10. So at the count of 90, I would ask him and his wife to do the cutting. So I start off from 10, 30, 40, 70, 80, and of course, 90. Congratulations for crossing this milestone. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Make the applause better. Make the applause better. 90th birthday celebration of a truly iconic professional and a great human being, all-around great human being. There you go. The confetti is at last. We're celebrating you, sir. You deserve it. Every carpet rolled out, every drum beat, every dance step, every word of Praise and adulation. You deserve it. Okay, DJ, bring it down. DJ, do I have family members, his family members here? Any family member here who can come now take a photo with him on the cake real quick? Family member? Any family member in the room? Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can take your seat. You can take your seat. Okay, just the two of you, sir. Just picture two of you. Okay, family member, that's okay. All right, I like that, sir. I like that. Family is not bound by blood only. I like that. I like that. Really, really beautiful. See, that tells you the quality of the man our honoree is. If these great men line around him and say his family, please, one more round of applause for him. This is remarkable. This is remarkable. It's a challenge and inspiration to us younger ones to be good, to be trustworthy, to be loyal, and to be resourceful everywhere we go. Truly learning, truly a moment to learn, truly. Okay, so I just want only the two of them now in the picture. Yes, just mommy and daddy, just the two of them in the picture. The president, you get one alone with them, just hold on. You get one alone with them, just two of them. Do you have it? You have it? Okay, President, now please, just with them. Yes. After that, Daddy will speak to us briefly. He will take his seat after he speaks. We'll play a minute video. After that minute video, we'll do a vote of thanks and lunch will be served. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let us listen. Wait, let him speak. Let him say something first. So that
your daddy all over again, yeah. I've done the wall so you can fly.
Madam President, and the rest of the congregation here, I'm indeed very, very grateful for this occasion. It reminds me of the story in the Bible between Christ and Zacchaeus. When my family arranged for my birthday to be celebrated, I was looking for how to get the name of the president of FNAPE to invite him. I was given the name of John Bosco. And I got him, I was looking for his address. In the process, somebody told me, don't look for him because FNAPE is going to host you. I said, I'm looking for the president, and they said, no, FNAPE will host me. But I wasn't even sure if it was going to be true or not, because the president told me that was not an official. But along the line, true, I was told that indeed FNAPE was going to host me. And so here today, I can see being complicated. As a matter of fact, I count myself as being not a very good member of FNAPE, because I've not been attending meetings in the last probably 20, 30 years since I retired. Once in a while, I would attend if I got someone to go with me. That was my friend, Mike Odua. Unfortunately, he passed on about 5 years ago. And since then, when there's a meeting of FNAPE, I said, I can't go alone. I have no partner, so I would not go. So when I was told that FNAPE, in fact, was going to honor me about 3 months ago, I was wondering who told them about me, who could have told them about my name. But apparently, there are some of you in this congregation here who still know me. And so when things are going on in FNAPE, they mention my name. I'm very grateful for this type of remembrance. Today's one is really an evidence that indeed, FNAPE hasn't forgotten me. The good old days are still there. And until I pass on, I continue to remember FNAPE and to thank you for this occasion. Thank you very much.
Daddy, can I call the YPS codes? Daddy, just one more picture. YPS codes. Let them come and receive the anointing for resourcefulness, longevity, and trustworthiness. Quick picture. YPS codes. Quick picture. Don't block mommy. Shift ahead. Don't block mommy. Oh yeah, take the picture. Do you have the picture? You have it. You have it. Thank you. Daddy can go back to his seat. YP, help mommy and daddy to their seats. Help mommy and daddy to their seats. Help mommy and daddy to their seats. Help mommy and daddy to their seat. As they are going, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to do something. I want us to sing a birthday song to them as they're going to their seats, okay? So on 3, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday. Keep it coming. To you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. May the good Lord bless you. For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us, and so say all of us, and so say all of us, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us. Give him another round of applause. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Amazing. You may be seated. All right, so we're going to serve lunch now. The 7 points to my immediate left is for our honoree, our fellows, our past presidents, and of course our ESCO. That's your 7 points. Now, every other distinguished guest, you can go to the one at the back here and there. Lunch is served, but please, I'm directed by Madam President to remind NAPE members to please pay their dues. Please pay your dues. It's important that you keep your membership going. Pay your dues, keep your membership renewed. Now, while you're doing that technical, can I have Madam President's announcement? Just put it on the loop. Put it on the loop. Put Madam President's announcement on the loop. Let's go. Where's the audio? The audio.
Colleagues, fellows, and members of NAPE, Happy New Year. I speak to you today not only as the president of the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, but as a fellow member who deeply believes in what NAPE represents. For 50 years, NAPE has stood as the professional home of petroleum explorationists in Nigeria and beyond. We have shaped careers, influenced policies, advanced science, and built a community that is respected across the global energy industry. Yet, after half a century of impact and service, we still do not have a permanent home to call our own. A befitting secretariat is more than just a building. It is a symbol of stability. It is a center for learning, mentorship, and innovation. It is the anchor that secures our future and preserves our legacy. As we stand at the threshold of NAPE's next 50 years, this is our moment to change the narrative, to build not just for ourselves, but for generations of explorationists yet unborn. As a non-profit association, access to loans may be limited, but the strength of NAPE has never been in banks. It has always been in its members. I am confident, and I believe you will agree with me, that the resources we need are already among us. So we have set a collective goal of 5 billion naira to acquire a suitable and permanent secretariat. What we are soliciting It's not just a donation, it is a legacy contribution. The name of those who support this vision will be remembered, engraved not only in stone, but in the enduring history of NAPE. So in the coming days, I'll be sending a formal appeal letter to you outlining how you can support this initiative and be part of this historic milestone. Every contribution matters. Every sacrifice counts. So together, they will give NAPE a permanent home. NAPE belongs to all of us, and together we have the capacity, the commitment, and the collective will to lift her higher. So let us join hands together. Let us build the future we envision, and let us secure NAPE for generations to come. Long live NAPE, and thank you for listening. Good day, dear elders, colleagues, fellows, and members of NAPE. Happy New Year. I speak to you today not only as the president of the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, but as a fellow member who deeply believes in what NAPE represents. For 50 years, NAPE has stood as the professional home of petroleum explorationists in Nigeria and beyond. We have shaped careers, influenced policies, advanced science, and built a community that is respected across the global energy industry. Yet, after half a century of impact and service, we still do not have a permanent home to call our own. A befitting secretariat is more than just a building. It is a symbol of stability. It is a center for learning, mentorship, and innovation. It is the anchor that secures our future and preserves our legacy. As we stand at the threshold of NAPE's next 50 years, this is our moment to change the narrative, to build not just for ourselves, but for generations of explorationists yet unborn. As a non-profit association, access to loans may be limited, but the strength of NAPE has never been in banks. It has always been in its members. I am confident, and I believe you will agree with me, that the resources we need are already among us. So we have set a collective goal of 5 billion naira to acquire a suitable and permanent secretariat. What we are soliciting is not just a donation, it is a legacy contribution. The name of those who support this vision will be remembered, engraved not only in stone, but in the enduring history of NAPE. So in the coming days, I'll be sending a formal appeal letter to you outlining how you can support this initiative and be part of this historic milestone. Every contribution matters. Every sacrifice counts. So together, they will give NAPE a permanent home. NAPE belongs to all of us, and together we have the capacity, the commitment, and the collective will to lift her higher. So let us join hands together. Let us build the future we envision, and let us secure NAPE for generations to come. Long live NAPE, and thank you for listening. Good day, dear elders, colleagues, fellows, and members of NAPE. Happy New Year. I speak to you today not only as the president of the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, but as a fellow member who deeply believes in what NAPE represents. For 50 years, NAPE has stood as the professional home of petroleum explorationists in Nigeria and beyond. We have shaped careers, influenced policies, advanced science, and built a community that is respected across the global energy industry. Yet, After half a century of impact and service, we still do not have a permanent home to call our own. A befitting secretariat is more than just a building. It is a symbol of stability. It is a center for learning, mentorship, and innovation. It is the anchor that secures our future and preserves our legacy. As we stand at the threshold of NAPE's next 50 years, this is our moment to change the narrative, to build not just for ourselves, but for generations of explorationists yet unborn. As a non-profit association, access to loans may be limited, but the strength of NAPE has never been in banks. It has always been in its members. I am confident, and I believe you will agree with me, that the resources we need are already among us. So we have set a collective goal of 5 billion naira to acquire a suitable and permanent secretariat. What we are soliciting is not just a donation, it is a legacy contribution. The name of those who support this vision will be remembered, engraved not only in stone, but in the enduring history of NAPE. So in the coming days, I'll be sending a formal appeal letter to you outlining how you can support this initiative and be part of this historic milestone. Every contribution matters. Every sacrifice counts. So together, they will give NAPE a permanent home. NAPE belongs to all of us, and together we have the capacity, the commitment, and the collective will to lift her higher. So let us join hands together. Let us build the future we envision, and let us secure NAPE for generations to come. Long live NAPE, and thank you for listening. Good day, dear elders, colleagues, fellows, and members of NAPE. Happy New Year. I speak to you today not only as the president of the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, but as a fellow member who deeply believes in what NAPE represents. For 50 years, NAPE has stood as the professional home of petroleum explorationists in Nigeria and beyond. We have shaped careers, influenced policies, advanced science, and built a community that is respected across the global energy industry. Yet, after half a century of impact and service, we still do not have a permanent home to call our own. A befitting secretariat is more than just a building. It is a symbol of stability. It is a center for learning, mentorship, and innovation. It is the anchor that secures our future and preserves our legacy. As we stand at the threshold of NAPE's next 50 years, this is our moment to change the narrative, to build not just for ourselves, but for generations of explorationists yet unborn. As a non-profit association, access to loans may be limited, but the strength of NAPE has never been in banks. It has always been in its members. I am confident, and I believe you will agree with me, that the resources we need are already among us. So we have set a collective goal of 5 billion naira to acquire a suitable and permanent secretariat. What we are soliciting is not just a donation, it is a legacy contribution. The name of those who support this vision will be remembered, engraved not only in stone, but in the enduring history of NAPE. So in the coming days, I'll be sending a formal appeal letter to you outlining how you can support this initiative and be part of this historic milestone. Every contribution matters. Every sacrifice counts. So together, they will give NAPE a permanent home. FNAPE belongs to all of us, and together we have the capacity, the commitment, and the collective will to lift her higher. So let us join hands together. Let us build the future we envision, and let us secure FNAPE for generations to come. Long live.
So good afternoon, everyone. Just a minute of your eating time. We have on display the QR code that you can quickly scan and then add your voice to the kudos board. So you have it here. You have the opportunity to enter your wishes real time. Thank you.